such a gloomy day. Okay, how do I start? Hey guys, it's me, I'm back, it's Kamiko, howdy do. I think I'm just gonna make that my thing. I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's been on my mind recently, and it's basically my thoughts and feelings on how my life could be affected if Obamacare is repealed. So I know right now, well, I don't know for sure, but if Obamacare is repealed, there is a large chance that people with pre-existing medical conditions will no longer be automatically covered by insurance. Insurance will not be obligated to look out for people with pre-existing conditions and whatnot, which would suck for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people who have pre-existing conditions who could be just completely screwed over by something like a repeal of Obamacare, including myself. I do have pre-existing medical conditions. What are they? Well, there's quite a few, but I'm gonna share maybe the top 5 with you guys. These are just gonna be the ones that affect me the most in my day-to-day life. So my diagnoses consists, well, 5 of my main. I'm going to start with one of the bigger ones, and that is, number 1 is I'm diagnosed bipolar. And there's, kind of a lot of stigma revolving around what bipolar is, and it's still different to each person. My bipolar and the way that I cycle between mania and depression is different than the way someone else could or is or would. And that's really important to keep in mind, that all of these things that I'm going to list and briefly talk about, it's just my experience. I am not pretending to be a professional on any of this stuff, because I'm not, and it is different for every person. Number 2, I'm diagnosed with ASPERGERS, which, for those of you who do not know, is on the autism spectrum. And I'm reasonably high functioning, but daily life is still different for me than other people. I have to think a lot about, and sometimes it's harder. I mean, it's harder for me than for other people. I have to think a lot in social situations. I have to, there's a lot of discomfort and anxiety for me in social environments. Because I read other people to see the best way to be in a certain social environment. And speech, language, verbal communication in general has always been a rough spot for me. I've always leaned more towards writing, because writing for me is a way to kind of organize my thoughts in a way that lets me put my best version of what I want to say forward. And then when you read something, you're reading it fluently. And sometimes the way I talk, I take pauses to think about how I'm going to word things, or if that's the way I want to word it, or, sometimes it's just a lot of pausing for me, and I'm sure you might notice this in some of my videos. So I'm reasonably high functioning, but I do struggle with this stuff. And again, it's different for me and for other people with Asperger's. We're not all the same. Number 3 I'm going to talk about is ADD, attention deficit disorder. which a lot of people who I end up telling this to, they're like, what? You have ADD, but you're not? What? And I always end up saying, you know, a lot of people kind of think that ADD and ADHD are the same thing. And attention deficit disorder is not the same thing as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I am not hyperactive. I don't bounce off the walls. I don't do any of that stuff. So people are always like, but wait, you don't look like it. And I always tell people it's because you think in your head that it's the same thing as attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD. And I have a very short attention span. So this is definitely true to my life. I sometimes have a hard time focusing. Sometimes it's harder for me at sometimes than others, especially if it's, you know, like within a certain cycle of my bipolar situation. Things can get very, very, I don't even know how to say it. It's like every like 5 minutes I'm like, squirrel! Or every 3 minutes I'm like, oh, something sparkly! But sometimes it's easier than others. And then number 4 I'm going to talk about is a big one. I spent a good 3 months in the middle of my high school time in an inpatient treatment facility for a diagnosed eating disorder. And at the time, it didn't have its proper medical name that it has now. And that name is binge eating disorder. And it's kind of like a mix of anorexia and bulimia in the sense that I would binge, but instead of like a bulimic who would then purge and throw up or take laxatives to get all of that stuff out of your body, I would then restrict, and I would starve myself because I would feel bad about binging. And so it's kind of a mixture of the two. And it didn't have they were working on having a diagnosable medical name for it when I was in treatment, but it was only until I think maybe a year after I was out of treatment the second time that that the name was medically introduced and acceptable to use as a firm diagnosis. And this is something I've been struggling with my whole life, binge eating disorder. It's not been an easy road to travel, and I still struggle and I still slip up, but leaning on my family and my support system has helped a lot, and I wasn't willing to do that earlier on in my life, especially during high school. But in the last maybe 6 months, I think I've worked really hard to be more aware of myself and to include my family when I see something start to happen, or I feel something start to happen, or I notice that I slip up or whatnot, because in a lot of these cases everything gets so mixed and muddled up that I can't get out of it myself, and I need help. And the 5th and the last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of my diagnoses today is anxiety. I have anxiety, just kind of general anxiety. I don't have like I don't fall into like a big subcategory, but anxiety is a big one for me. I am anxious a lot, and it got to the point sometimes in high school where like I would get so anxious I would just shut down, and it was just like I was gone. I didn't move forward. I wasn't making any sort of progress. I wasn't hanging out with people, and it was hard on my life and my family's life and my friends. And actually, last week I got this kind of stepped up a notch, and I had what I believe to be my first panic attack last week, which was insane, and I'll probably be making another video about that separately, because I think it's something that I really need to, like, put out there. And my experience with it, of course, again, you know, my experience is not everyone's experience. But yeah, so I have these 5 major things in my day-to-day life. And I am fortunate enough to still be covered under my parents' medical insurance, but that won't happen forever. I'm 21 right now. I only have a couple more years to kind of float along under their insurance. And if Obamacare is repealed, I may not be able to have access to medical help and reasonably, ooh, I cannot speak. I might not have access to reasonably priced medical treatment for my pre-existing conditions either. You know, I don't make a lot of money. I go to school full-time. I'm a full-time college student. I'm a part-time worker. I'm working on, you know, I'm actively looking for other work. I need a full-time job, especially as the summer's coming. I just kind of want to focus on making money. So, you know, if Obamacare is repealed and something else falls into place that doesn't hold insurance companies responsible for providing treatment to people who really, really need it, then I could be totally screwed. Some of my close friends could be totally screwed. Some of my family, actually a lot of my family, could be totally screwed. Because there are a lot of people who have pre-existing conditions, and there are a lot of people who have more than one, and all of that stuff adds up. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk to you guys today about. Thanks for listening to me. If you have any questions about my diagnoses, or if you want to share some of your stories or your diagnoses, you can leave them in the comments down below. I'll read them all. And if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if you like, you know, what I talked about in this video, I will definitely be making more mental health videos in the future. I think I'm gonna like make it a segment, or like a series, if you will, because there's a lot to talk about. And there are a lot of YouTubers who, you know, talk about this stuff very well, and I just kind of want to add to that discussion, because I think it's important. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end this now. Yeah, so, like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want, and I will see you guys soon. Alright? Thanks. I love you. Bye.